Good morning, good morning, good morning, all. Um, I've called this one Yoda because Yoda made me fucking do it. You know what I mean? And when Yoda fucking makes you do something, you do it. You don't ask questions. You just go, all right, fucking Yoda, I'm getting ready to do it. Now, already, if this was a serious presentation, you would maybe think that this is like already ruined my chances of being taken seriously because I've mentioned Yoda. But that's silly because he's right there. I just picked him up and put him there. When you can see Yoda, you know that Yoda is real. Do you know what I mean? Am I making myself clear? When you can see Yoda plainly with your eyes, I'm not taking someone else's word for the fact that Yoda is in fact there. He's there. Look. Unless he's not there. Is he there? Can you see him? Yes. Well, then he's there. It's all pretty simple. It's all pretty freaking simple. But what does this all mean? Well, there's no doubt in my mind to the things that I'm saying because it's all, for me personally, it's kind of part of this big elaborate thing that I'm constantly doing, and I'm constantly confirmed on it. There isn't a moment of my life that I'm not absolutely confirmed on it. You know what I mean? And it specifically keeps directing me down to a point. Now, what I think's actually happened, or what has been happening, and what we're on the verge of, is that this is basically the story of humans, right? Is that we've been building what would best be described as a funnel, right? But it's been very slow and laborious, and it's gone through all these different iterations of form. But the funnel is to condense for humankind, basically, the word of God, right? That's like a little drop dropping out. Now, this is now somewhere near what we have, but it hasn't always been like this. And so every single person in history has been contributing to this, but not knowing that they're contributing to it. And they've been doing it with all the best intentions, but you know what they say about intentions and where they lead. And that's I guess part of the whole thing. See, this journey for me particularly has taken me on all types of weird things, and there is always in my mind the assumption that this is it. I'm like, I'm there. And sometimes this has literally led me to, because when everything goes haywire, when you're looking around, all the people, all the governments, all the media, just everything, you 100% know that that's all that's all like a cyclone or a storm. You're like, no, that's fucking all wrong. then you land in what I do is I feel around and I'm like, right, I've got my head around this exact place that I'm at. I know how all the things around me work. I know that's a tree and that's a bird, that's grass. I know that the sheep or the cow is going to eat the grass and like that whole Lion King thing. And so that's like the safe, like I can stay there, but then that's like hermeticism. That's me being a hermit. It's just me staying. And I'm quite happy to do that. But hermits in the past haven't had iPhones and I never had an iPhone. Well, I had one years and years ago. I think I had the first iPhone and then that's it. But I had a Google Pixel, whatever. Right? And so that changes the whole thing because I've somehow documented actual, not like later on I write down some beautiful poem about it. I've actually just done it in real time. And there's a lot involved in that. But because I had a lot of time, because I'd settled down to this comfortable space, I was like, well, I know this works. All of that, I would look at all of you, at the world and civilization and the business and economics and the stock market and global religion and war and all that. And I'm like, that's all fucking haywire. And the more I get comfortable in that exact thing, then I do have what is described as a religious experience where I'm interacting directly with God. The problem is that when I come back from that place, it follows me, or he follows me, right? And he's got some type of bigger plan. And knowing, he looked me up in the yellow pages and he said, that guy's pretty good at scrapping together things and putting something together out of nothing and fucking making something work. As my mother would say, fixing it up with baling wire or whatever. That's an Australian thing. Australians are ingenious people. I'd say in the world, our kinfolk are the Russians. The Russians and the Australians have this for different reasons. Completely different reasons, but same manifestation. We're in a hostile land, doing it tough with the resources we have. I'm going to have to keep this snappy because I've just realised I've got 5% battery. Bugger it. I'll go and plug the battery, and you can all wait. You can all think about Russia while I get the charger, and I'm not in a hurry. Right, so where was that? So now I'm just plugging in. Wouldn't that be crazy if I accidentally electrocuted myself while I'm doing this? That's going to happen, right? So get ready for that. People are, and probably already have, accidentally electrocuted themselves whilst live streaming. I'm not celebrating. I'm just saying that's going to happen. It's like Mick Fanning when Mick Fanning got attacked by a shark while in a competition. I knew at that moment that the world was never going to be the same again because that's an experience I've had. I've been in the water surfing. There's my board. And know what it's like to be constantly thinking of a shark or that a shark's going to come. And so, yeah, it was a strange thing to think, wow, that's been seen. We've seen it. That's like everyone's worst kind of fear. All surfers know this. They know they've all gone through it in their head that they're thinking, imagine I'm just out here by myself or there's a few, and I'm just getting attacked by a shark. It's like, no one can do anything about it. Everyone on the shore, it's like they can yell and scream and it doesn't matter. That creature of the deep is going to try and eat me in front of all these people. And I don't know what's worse, that or by yourself with no one there. So no one ever knows. But the best way I've always found to deal with that phenomenon is to just accept it. You know what I mean? Which sounds weird. You just accept that you are going to be eaten. You are more than likely going to lose this battle with this gigantic thing. And from a particular experience I've had, where a near-death experience, I know that what happens when that actually happens is that very quickly your mind goes into a state of, oh, I'm dying. Okay. And you don't remember it. You know what I mean? So you very quickly, that could be described as God. The hand of God comes down and goes, don't worry about what's going on down there. Do not worry. Don't even look down. Whatever you do, don't look down. And then, unless you want to, because it is quite graphic, and if you like to, if you want to see yourself being eaten by a shark, I guess you can. And that's a strange thing that I have, and it gives me a strange comfort level. But within that, I still am careful with when, where, how I go in the water. It doesn't completely protect me, but I have been in that mode where I am in that, and that's because if it's priorities. It's like, if you want to become a really good surfer, you need to completely remove it from your mind, or come beautifully to terms with the fact that you will more than likely die in the water, in a foreign place. But that's the whole process, is making that foreign territory your home that you will die in. And I guess the internet is the same as this. So if I have died from electrocuting myself by charging my laptop in whilst streaming, then that would be akin to, that shark attack. So everything is the same. That was a tangent. So what I wanted to say was that in this little journey that I've been having, where I, find peace in and this used to be a place, in my property where I would just have, and I knew that all the projects, whether it's a building project or whether it's a planting project or a farming project or a engineering, whatever it is, it's like there's lots of time, and a lot of those things I'm not going to finish. And that's where I find peace, is a long-term projects that I can, maybe do an hour or two on a day. That's how humans used to work. But then I'm constantly reminded that this whole internet world and this whole other thing is just next door, right? And so it's like that instantly disturbs your peace. You can't just do that whilst next door there is basically a constant war going on. And so I would like wander into it and have a look. And as I said, like, this would lead me on these things where I would be certain, like, and like, it is a type of, it's not a voice. It's like a type of like leading. Basically, it's like I'm being led like on a journey that is showing me little things. And a lot of times, this is where it's like, I honestly think God has like a little bit of a sick sense of humor, but it's pretty similar to my dad's. And that's a pretty common phenomenon. So it's like, it's these, like, you learn these lessons in this annoying way, which makes sense only when you're in the position of trying to teach lessons, because then you understand that like concretes the lesson in more. And so a lot of this would be like, I would get the fit. I'm like, right, I just got to walk to the end of this pier with no shoes on these fucking rocks to prove my faith. And then at the end of that, I'm going to be teleported off, and I'm going to be saved from all this fucking nonsense that I see around me. And then this just continuously is what I'm doing. And now I'm so comfortable in it that I don't really particularly even want to be teleported off. But one thing that's really common or really happens all the time within this thing is that because, and it's shown in the movie Gattaca. If you watch the movie Gattaca, there's a pretty good depiction of this. So a lot of times, because I had so much faith in like this, teleportation at the end, that this was it, I would get there and I wouldn't leave anything left to get back, but I would always have to come back. And so it's the same lesson every single fucking time that I've done any of these things. It's like, all right, I trust you. I'm right out here. Look at this. Okay, I'm seeing this thing. Usually what I would get from this is at that point, I would see the world in a different way. Because it's very much like this is I'm at the top. I'm the king of the world, like on Titanic. Following that thing to get to a place like that you then have this experience of like seeing, you're like, well, I've done this thing. I've done, like, everyone else would have stopped and turned around. There's nothing out there. There's nothing out there. And in reality, there is nothing out there. But what was out there? This knowledge, the knowledge that I've seen this, I know I've kept going. And at every point, I know that I've kept going. And I'm so far out now, so far into that the only thing to do is to be like, well, what are all of you doing? And I just see the whole thing in such a different way. But I always have had to come back. And that, on that journey, you learn a fuckload of lessons as well. Because it's like, I've done it where I'm like, I can barely walk by the time I get out to somewhere. I've got no shoes on. I'm on fucking rocks and gravel. It's cold. There's a million different ways. It's been a while since I've done those particular ones. Because in the beginning, I thought that was like the ultimate things. I'm like, yeah, it's got to be really painful and difficult. There was one day where I walked for 5 or 10 minutes on a 40-degree day across prickles, and like not just prickles, but it may as well have been a fucking field filled with fucking thumbtacks. And I got stuck in the middle of it. But I got through it. And for 2 months after that, my feet were filled with fucking prickles. But that reassured me that I could get through the hardest of things. And I think that's kind of that's akin to what people are doing when they get tattoos. But they're left with like a little Mickey Mouse picture on their arm or something like that. Different strokes for different folks. But what I think we are in the process of doing is rediscovering some type of faith globally through the kind of the same process. And we're building this this funnel. And the funnel is concentrating if you look at individually, like say this is the span of all phenomenon. Where did the pen go? Right, I've lost the pen. This is the span of all possible phenomenons emerging in our realm or in our physical or whatever state. If you chop them all up and look at them all independently, you can be like, well, this is, the world is just this big chaotic mess, and it's fucking like, you know what I mean? There's no, of course, there is no order in any of this. So if there's no order, then there is no God. But then why is there religion? That wouldn't make sense. Why are we constantly developing tools for communication and for translation and culture and things. Well, because this is constantly emerging, and it's kind of like we're not going to see the chaos all around us until we can understand that we are never in anyone else's experience. And this is 100% what has been going on. We're not ordered in the way. There we are. See, that was that. Do you know how much that was annoying me that I couldn't find the texture, and you could probably hear it. Sorry, Yoda. So there's kind of a masculine, very masculine trait of like very directed, straight line thinking, right? This is how men think. They start here and they want to get to here and they just want to get along and get it done. Now, this is technically what I'm doing. Like, I'm very much in this. It's just that the problems I'm focusing on now, that I've let go of all these kind of, societally reinforced tasks and projects that I was born into, because I've swum up enough to be like, hang on, that's all just kind of turbulence. Literally the entire humanity existence right now is a lot of turbulence of past ideas and ideals and projects and concerns, and we're not very good at cleaning out our closet as far as humanity goes. Like, you can get your life looking perfect, but you are attached to this fucking swirling maelstrom of historic actions and concerns and projects and structures and all these things. And so that is causing the majority of the problems. And that is like hijacking this tip of the spear moment where we're getting to this structure emerging of like organization, which it sounds bad, but it's like, well, because so many people are consumed with that maelstrom, once you actually get out of it and can see clear air, there's not that many people doing that. And so you can just communicate with them. And then the biggest thing is that you have a faith that if you've done that, if you've popped your head out of the storm, you're only going to be seeing other people that have done the same thing. And this is where you then have a faith that, well, they've probably gone on some type of similar journey and they're probably trying to build this funnel, even if they're absolute atheists. As long as they've got to this thing, as long as they're not stuck in this maelstrom of like previous thought, if there's a faith that there is a solution, if nihilism hasn't settled in, if apathy isn't present, then like you're all kind of brothers in arms, even if you're on opposing radically gigantic movements of religion or nationalism or commerce or ideology. You find yourself that, even if you've elevated to some type of hierarchical position within your own ideology, nationality, religion, even commerce or whatever, that the majority of the people, and I'll say below you, but technically they're not really below you. It's actually more like they're above you and the weight of them is on you. So, the patriarchy, the hierarchy, that's all a mistake. It's like the people that at the top, as you would all say, are actually at the bottom, and the weight of that is on them. And then it's easier to communicate with those people because you know that they at least know the end solution, the end game. And then we have to find the really core principles that we're following. It's like you can be totally absorbed into an ideology, whether it be Islam, Catholicism, Buddhism, any of the fucking thing, any of the isms or the whatever's, due to environmental occurrences that you've been born into. And so you will attach to that, but your journey doesn't really start until you, in your attachment to that you start being critical of that. And then there's a dance. The dance is always you're being critical of it. And then you need to hear where people are being critical, and you need to be critical of the people being critical. Because a lot of times I've found that it's the criticism that is short-sighted or that's misinformed. So it's like, this is the Catholic Church is this thing. Well, yes, but it's within the negative manifestations of the Catholic Church or the Holy Roman Empire or whatever it is, or the Roman Empire, whatever it is. They are a manifestation of self-preservation because they have identified themselves as a secular group. I don't even think that's the right word, but that is their tribe. That is their identity. And so to protect that identity, because that identity is protecting you, you will do hideous things in all the previous manifestations because this wasn't an option. So you could escape it all and you could find just true communion with God and be a hermit and stick there. And you maybe write some fucking scrolls for 80 years and someone might find them, but usually they won't because nobody fucking cares what anyone else is doing. And so there's been refuge there. Or you can be an absolute, follower, a true believer and rise to the top of whatever organization it is and do that option and insulate yourself and bolster that group to fight bloody combat in the spiritual or the physical realms. And that was the only option. But this wasn't an option. Despite these meetings that are going on now, like this United Nations, NATO, the World Health, whatever these things are, it gives the illusion that international diplomacy is this fucking hot thing. It's on the ball. It's right on the ball. It's fucking got everything sorted. They've got this and this and this. But the reality of it is that that's incredibly difficult, and that really these tools that we now have, this is the only moment where we have a snowball's chance in hell of actually having success with peaceful diplomatic actions. Because unfortunately, it usually comes down to gut instinct. You could have the best, I could have Donald Trump here for breakfast. You know what I mean? We're going to go and arrest the Pope. We're going to bring down the Roman Empire. We're going to unite the Christendom and push back against Islam, and we're going to find a way to communicate all these really complicated. And then he's like, yep, totally agree. This is 100%. Yep, we're all in this. We go and get ready to sign documents, everything like this. And then he could, you know what I mean? He could have a black cat cross his limo on the way back to his hotel and completely fucking change his mind, betray me, and end up, killing me. And that's the truth of this. Despite our glorious achievements in military and nuclear warfare and cyber warfare and chemical warfare, all these things, unfortunately, it's falling down to these whims, because the problem is that for stability, we need those hierarchies. We need those structures. We need those people. They are people that are very important. But unless their actions can be described as this, building this funnel, removing this impediment, you know what I mean, of their personal trajectory, which I think is the Christian ideal. It's like you have to take that out. You have to take your self-interest out of it. But you don't have to be in that position. So it's like you can be in the self-interest. And my faith is that if you work in your self-interest and you just leave the fucking total world domination, you just leave it aside, your self-interest will manifest autonomously into this, and you will harmoniously build this. Once you step out of the way and you allow the people that have, taken away their self-interest, which it's not a natural thing for me to do. I'm a very self-interested person. I like cars. I like women. I like, freedom. I like excess to a certain degree. I'd be very happy, trying to achieve these lofty heights that are the hallmark of, say, like an Andrew Tate character. It's just that because of certain things in my life story, is like I have already experienced the fact that it doesn't matter that I won't be comfortable. I know that those things won't insulate me from the war next door. And this, funnily enough, is probably what pushes the people that have excelled in self-interest. Even if that self-interest projects to their family, nothing wrong with that. Absolutely perfectly, noble thing, noble pursuit, and your personal purpose, whatever. That's all great. And it's from that, then their position with wealth, with power, with influence, that they seek to control or limit or put their input into the war next door. But it's through the lens of self-interest. And so there's this constant, it's very much like when I was saying, when I walk to this place with no shoes on and get to the end of it, I'm like, oh, I get the message from God. But that message, I can't take that message to the bank. You know what I mean? And every time I do it, it pushes me further away from society. I'm comfortable in that. Do you know what I mean? Because I know that I can follow that to the same place to find, it doesn't actually matter if I didn't have an inheritance from my father. That actually, in a weird way, is like a limitation, because I will just abandon this thing and go and do something else. And that will be that, and I will, document it. But then I'm just one of those people. Again, I'm one of those hermits that maybe write some things. Maybe there might be some pearls of wisdom in there, and I'll probably have quite a content life. But then I'm in the same predicament. See, for me, the knowledge that I can do that is akin to all the wealth in the world. In fact, it's actually better, because there isn't a doubt in my mind that if I do stroll off, you know what I mean, etch out a little refuge, that has the things I need, and live there, that I'll be content. The only real thing is women, but it's like I trust in God. I trust that God's not going to kind of leave me that. So either I'll find some fucking beautiful peace and harmony in celibacy, or I would or a woman would stroll out and meet me there. Whatever it is, there's no doubt in my mind with that. And all that anyone's really trying to do when they're wealthy is do this. You know what I mean? They want to be able to go through their gate into their penthouse and shut everyone off and know that, there's enough money, that there's no worries. It's the same thing. It's just different environments. I wasn't born in New York, so that isn't my pinnacle. So you can go either direction. I was born, in a small town on a 20-acre property of bush. It was like I've always had my refuge as that. There weren't skyscrapers around. I went to the skyscrapers and I was like, well, this is fucking just silly. You know what I mean? There was a time when I was doing TAFE and I walked to the top of the R&I building, or the Bank West building, or I think now it's called Palace Towers or whatever it is, in Bond Tower. Saw the gold elevator and kind of went, yeah, I get it. And I've had that interaction, but it just, for me, it's like the adventure of it more than the actual money. But it's the same thing. It's just that I can't find peace knowing that this is going on. If I didn't have children, it'd be completely different. To leave my children in this mess is unacceptable. And that's, I think, that's the message. And it's like, so I'm not saying, it's not that I'm not God, but that helps me understand God. Do you know what I mean? In perhaps a more subtle way than flaming pits of sulfur. It's like I have a faith that's, well, if I feel this frustration to my people and my children and my environment and my society, is it all that odd to think that maybe that's how God feels about us? He, according to all the things I can get to, it's like he's made some decisions and he's kind of stuck with it. He's like, they have to have free choice. I'm not going to force them. And this is a direct conduit, straight from there, straight through. It's like, well, it's the same. That's how I treat my children. And even if there was more, like slightly more things I would like to maybe do, it's like how quickly our government is swallowing up basically any type of influence that we can have on our children. This is that Bob Dylan song, your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. And this has been the revolution for, say, the last 60 years. But that's abandonment. That's where atheism leads you. You know what I mean? I've pushed to the limits and found God by distressing myself and being in stressful environments and stressful situations. That's my assumption. That's always how people have found God. That is what that is. You could just as easily, if you were so content on or so whatever on being in the atheist mindset, you could call that self-preservation, activation of pattern recognition and biological imperative to survive. Through our human perceptions of narrative. If you are by yourself, you're going to find somebody. You know what I mean? And that person is either going to want to do you good or do you harm. But what is this, demand on, so say things like coercive control? It's like, well, if you're lost in the desert, do you want to be coercively controlled by God or coercively controlled by the devil, or all alone with nobody? And I've found that the devil's power in that moment is absolutely zero. That the devil only has power if you're in abundance, if you're in gluttony, if you're already in sin. And so it's like that's what's being protected. There's no argument in my mind really that this system is a devil system, is a Satanist system, is a beast system, as you want to call it, because it is protecting gluttony, it is protecting sin, and it is preventing the most natural, presentation of the Word of God or of the guidance of God is the parents. We call God the Father. So there's no doubt in my mind that it's a war on God. And that's all well and good when we get to the atheists. So, okay, the atheists they've lived within a gilded cage. There's no doubt that I know every atheist will find God if you leave them in the desert. So that's what happens. It's a manifestation. It's like what happens when you spoil and enforce an overabundance. No difficulty, everything's provided. Then you were stealing God, and when you enforce that, then you're coercively controlling the worship of the devil. And it's very difficult to kind of approach these things and say these things without falling back and sounding like some preacher. And that's like it's difficult. It's difficult to do. I would suggest you try it. Try it from your atheist perspective. It's like, what are you going to do when you're lost in the fucking desert? Who are you going to listen to? And what would you describe that as? But most people nowadays, they're not having that interaction first. They're having the interaction of being absolutely drunk, obliterated, perhaps in a palace of sin like a casino or a nightclub. And that's more familiar to most people these days. That's the devil and God argument. Go home, keep drinking. Go home, keep drinking. And that's what's being protected. So it's like that's in the guise of protection. By not exposing people to hardship. But that's placing it all within the individual. And this is kind of one of the atheist arguments. It's like, well, if God loved us so much, why does he provide us hardship? Why are things difficult? Well, I just told you. That's the only place he can really be heard. It's from a place of hardship, of difficulty. And our entire system basically now is designed that it's the only thing we offer people in hardship is sympathies, but it's not really sympathies. It's a oh, are you having a hard time? Oh, here, have some tokens. Have some tokens. I don't want your hardships to impede my situation. And then there's a gathering of those. Should we just all, just I don't know, throw some dollar coins in a little thing, and so that those hardship people don't get in our way and interrupt all the things that we're doing? But the problem is that when I look at those people doing that, behaving in that way, they're the people, I'm doing that to them. Because existing harmoniously is now looked at as poverty. So that's kind of revealing the trick. But when you think about it, it all kind of makes a lot of sense. If you're like, righto, how would you get people to go, like a casino? I think you go there, you take the money that you've earned and you gamble it to try and make more money. Well, to get the people in there, you have to sell them the concept that they don't have enough. That's the only way that anyone would ever gamble, which is so weird a thing to think of. Anyone who feels they have enough doesn't gamble. So to perpetuate a gambling, and look, this is where it's like our current housing situation, that is the same. We've turned something like housing into a casino. And so the only way to do that is for children to be born into a state of not having enough, so that the casino doesn't go out of business. And this, like, the machine gun of this war is shame. It's like, oh, does your child not have enough? Does your child, is he not? Are they not doing this? Oh, that's a shame. But the vast majority of people making up that cohort of projecting out, of machine gunning those things, they're indentured servants. Hopefully it's come back. They're servants. They're slaves. They have life bonds, death mortgages of 30 years. To provide the things. So you're immediately there. It's like, well, you're immediately in that position. And it's sold to us like that. It's sold to us as as the status quo for all mankind. And it's not true. And there is no reality within this, bar turning everything off. And then even still, it will crash. So if you turn everything off, everything's going to crash. Turn all our computers off, everything will crash. All the record keeping will be crashed. You know what I mean? There'll be no way to do these things. They will come and collect on their properties, and there will be kind of this elevation of militarization of property acquisition. Then they will, get all the pieces and put it all back together. And so it's so weird. It's like we have all the resources and all the capabilities to solve all the fucking problems that we have. And very strangely, that is existing in like a back room of a casino, and nobody's there. And so imagine that. It's like, what am I doing? Well, I've snuck into the back room of a casino. I've found a little thing that you're all using for child pornography and gambling. And I've basically used it to send a message to the Pope that, you know what I mean, is saying, listen, this whole thing is in direct conflict with God. I'm not saying I'm going to fuck it up. I'm saying he's going to fuck it up. The moment that there is nobody doing this is the moment that you're about to fucking all die. It's like, this is so bad. And we're going to have like 1,000 people a minute landing on this, because no matter what the fuck you think you've been doing, no matter what little scam, what little operation, what little nationality, what little investment thing, what little religious sect, what little cult, what little fucking nuclear arms race, what little whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter what any of you fucking think you're doing. This has been built. Right? And drop by drop, the condensed knowledge, this is what a condenser would look like if you had a closed vessel, you know what I mean, of steam, of hot air, of vapor, which is that's a good way to think about the collective humanitarian knowledge being projected into this space is vapor, right? It's condensing on this that you didn't even know you were building. This is the world has built this. It's condensing, and it's going to start dripping and running and then flowing. So this is the first drop. There it is. The first drop. And that is going to turn into a river. And it is going to flood the earth. And so there's only one fucking thing to do. And that's to fucking jump on your board and go downstream. There is no other alternatives. It's chaotic design. And like very few people, you know what I mean? It's like a blessing and a curse. It's like I was blessed and cursed with whatever the fuck it is, this life, this existence, that has enabled me to see the moving fucking cogs and to be able to predict them. You know what I mean? But not really. I'm just, as I said, I'm in constant dialogue with God, in constant Not weirdly, not like, hey, God, well, almost kind of like that, but just not in the but I can see why they were like that. I can see why the Islamists blow up things. I can see why the Inquisition. I can see why the Jewish, finances. I can see why the capitalist collection of money. Because anyone that's got themselves to the top of that position in order to build their magnificent part of that funnel knows that everyone below them is shit and incompetent, and that everyone around them is shit and incompetent. They have no idea what they're doing, so they need to fucking absolutely use every single part of their body and existence to contribute to this funnel. No one will ever understand it. And there's all different ways, there's different explanations to what they're doing. A lot of people just don't. Well, I'm just a businessman. I'm just an entrepreneur. This is Donald Trump. This is why he was so easy to attack. So easy to misunderstand. Oh, he's just a greedy businessman. No. No, he's one of the largest in this day and age. He's one of the largest contributors to this funnel. He's one of the largest protectors of this funnel. And he just like I, is not going to stop until this river is flowing. We're going to get to harmony. And it is the first step, not the last, of what's coming. There's a common thing to say, religion is the cause of all things. This is what my father left me with. And, my actual father, that's a shit thing to leave your children with. Oh, all religions are the cause of every war. Well, what isn't, Dad? You. I can say that because my dad's dead. Doesn't mean that I didn't love him. Doesn't mean that he wasn't a good man. It means that he was a flawed individual like we all are. He got himself to the hermit situation. He got himself by himself, but he because of this little seed that he was floating in an ocean of this. This was the societal thing. Every religion, we're all this. We don't need atheism. Yeah, technology, space, NASA, whatever the fuck it is. Of course, when you can go on, $50 down at 50, a carton of fucking beer. Who needs God? Remote control pointed at the TV with fucking, all the channels. You'll think, who needs fucking God? And that's what he got. He left me with that knowledge of religion is the whatever. But then luckily he counteracted that by leaving me the actual most important piece of knowledge he left me, which was, don't be so critical. What if all these people are actually trying to do good? And I'm kind of like, fuck you dickhead. That's a complete fucking hypocritical statement. Or religion's the cause of all evil, but don't go throwing blame because they might all be trying, all the people that you think of whatever, they might all be trying to make the place better. What, like with the religions? But then you can't take anything anyone says too seriously because they might be having a bad day. Like I said, Donald Trump might see a black cat run in front of his thing and completely betray me and hang me up to fucking dry. And that might have something to do with some negative fucking thing that his father told him. Who the fuck knows? I'm going to keep going a little bit. I'm going to read one of these fucking things. I'm going to do a little flippity flip of this. And then because I've tried to fucking convince Emmanuel Macron to stop being a devilishly a devilish Frenchman for a moment and assist me in arresting the Pope. And listen, to all the Catholics, Pope Leo is not going to be tortured. He's not going to be burnt alive, right? He's going to be the headpiece, the mouthpiece for an explanation of what exactly has been going on so that we can reunite Christendom and use that as our largest weapon of war to drag into this modern day crusade, which will not at all take place with guns or catapults or fucking, anything like that. It's going to be like this. And they will hear us, not by armies marching into Jerusalem, but by people speaking. And they will find a way to rid themselves of this extremist urge. I don't need to criticize their prophet because their prophet was a prophet of their time like ours was. I criticize their actions in the real time, in the real world. I do wish that I could speak their language and do their things so we could have a better chance of doing that, but we will get better at that. So yeah, I'm going to read 5 French words, and first I'm going to pick one of these. I've been landing on the Psalms a fair bit, and this is Psalm, I have to be careful. It's Psalm 105, 29. He turned their waters into blood and killed their fish. I'll keep reading. Their land abounded with frogs, even in the chambers of their kings. He spoke, and there came swarms of flies and lice in all their territory. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land. He struck their vines, also their fig trees, and splintered the trees of their territory. He spoke, and locusts came, young locusts without number, and ate up all the vegetation in their land and devoured the fruit of their ground. He also destroyed all the firstborn in their land, the first of all their strength. He brought them out with silver and gold, and there was none feeble among his tribes. Egypt was glad when they departed, for the fear of them had fallen upon them. He spread a cloud for a covering and fire to give light in the night. The people asked, and he brought quail and satisfied them with the bread of heaven. He opened the rock, and water gushed out. It ran in the dry places like a river, for he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant. He brought out his people with joy, his chosen ones with gladness. He gave them the lands of the Gentiles, and they inherited the labor of the nations, that they might observe his statutes and keep his laws. Praise the Lord. That, to think of, I'm reading this and getting, like, it hits me, and I start getting a little bit whatever, and I'm practice so I can get through it. But that's difficult because it's upsetting me. I'm getting emotional response. And if you had told me that even fucking 4 years ago that I'd be reading the Bible and getting an emotional response, I would have called you a lunatic. Because it's so real. It's so absolutely real. It's so direct. If I look at the Middle East, I see that. I say, it's like, well, that's happened. Lads, yeah, come on. You know what I mean? I've spent the last however long, raising animals, trying to fucking plant trees and looking after fish and trying to make this like that. Not because of religion, actually because of the opposite of religion. Because I was like, well, I'll sort this out. God obviously didn't. Religion didn't. Science is going to do it. Trust the science if you have to trust something. It's what's happening. Yeah, and the thing is, it's like it's the same God. Basically, the way that I want to describe it is like we have Protestantism or Anglicanism, whatever it is, and Catholicism, right? Both Christianity, two major things. We've had a Reformation and we've had the Holy Roman Empire, right? Then we have, Islam has split into two sects. It's like there is more in common now with the Protestants and I'm sorry, I just actually don't know which ones it is. I can't remember whether it's Sunni or Shiite, but one of them thinks that the Ayatollah is bringing this in now, and this is similar with the Catholics. It's the Pope. See, when I support and acknowledge King Charles, I don't acknowledge him as having all the answers. I acknowledge him as God's chosen representative to unite Christendom through his subjects' actions, which means that I can criticize him, which means that all it comes down to is that he is a man, he's a father, he is a son, he's a brother, he's an uncle, he's an old English guy with a funny hat on, and that is wonderful. That's it. The faith I have is not directly in that man. It is in the people who, underneath him and through all their own trials and their own history, understand that this chaotic representation of God is more accurate. For anyone that's ever found, a $50 note flying in a car park and thought, thank you, that's amazing. I have no doubt that I can commune with God whenever I want. But that doesn't mean he's giving me a gilded path to walk on. It doesn't mean it's this effortless existence. In fact, it's the complete opposite. In fact, it was a lot easier being in the other thing, but I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't getting anything done. Rather than a constant faith that, it's going to be fine, there was a constant, resentment. I don't have any resentment now because I know that I'm either going to be killed or I'm either going to be successful. And it was like, well, that's always the thing. The fact that I was, harnessed for a short period to extract that physical output from me doesn't change the fact that I'm here now. And because of the wonderful tools that I'm using, it means that I don't have to have some type of Ned Kelly standoff in the middle of a suburban street. That's all Ned Kelly was doing. But he didn't have a laptop. He had a shotgun and a fucking oil drum. It's the to and fro of Christianity. Never forget that Jesus had two thieves either side of him. Right. The French words in the blue, I will make sure that they're right. That's the front. So I'll get 5 words in French. Hongrois. Hongrois. Apostrophe E means Hungarian. Okay, Hungarian. Seal. Oh no. Oil. O-E-I-L. Oil. I'm probably bastardizing. Emmanuel, you have to correct me. To have a black eye. With the naked eye. To keep an eye on a watch. To keep an eye on. Oil. Okay. So we could maybe keep an eye on Hungarian. This is weird because this dictionary is, I don't know, it's half in French, half in, I don't know. Anyway, in initiative, to take the initiative, to have initiative, show enterprise, spirit qualities of initiative, on one's own initiative. Right, two more. Profiteur. P-R-O-F-I-T-E-U-R. Yes, profiteur is E-U-S-E. I don't know what that means. Profiteer. To take advantage of, to make the most of, to take it to. We have to profiteer by keeping an eye on hungry. What was it? UL. Yeah. Is it one more or two more? I'll do two more just in case I've forgotten. Miss C. M-I-S-E. And then I've got down to, it's actually more specifically, so that means well-dressed. But then specifically my thumb is on mort. M-O-R-T, which is mortgage. Kill. Mort means to kill. To gauge, it's a gauge of killing. I'm going to kill you for this gauge. Gauge is like an amount, pretty sure. All right, one more. Monter, M-O-N-T-E-R. Bring up, to mount, to put up. Okay. It's like to put up, Hungarian, like, I don't know. I'll have to go and look what's happening in Hungary at the moment. I'll leave that with all of you. And I'm pretty sure, just as I said that, I looked at it, it was 1 minute, 1 hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Crazy. Because so people think it's like, oh, I was shown this thing. It's like, that. You always know. You can see it all. It's this thing that fucking does or whatever. That's what I mean. You could think it sounds like pseudoscience, but it's like, well, you're observing every single micro thing that's going on all around you, including like sometimes text or something that's going, and it's there, right? So this is like the funnel. It's like that's the same way your subconscious works. It's building the funnel, but you have to have the right direction. Alrighty, and mine is always peace. It's peace and to be able to live peacefully in my way, which is, it's so simple. And it's like, I have to do all this to do what I could already do because, as I said, I can't ignore the neighbors warring next door.